So as a lot of you know, I came back from Korea again this summer and worked with refugees and kind of like spent the rest of the summer between my dad's house in Tennessee and down here in Florida working on classes. So this was kind of my brain at work, kind of processing the refugees with my dad's retired state. And on another note, this is the refugee flag that was designed by Ogilvy, New York for Amnesty International last year. It was implemented around the time of the Rio Olympics, and it was sort of a sign of like international solidarity with refugees. And it was designed by a refugee right there. And so these are some global trends at a glance. So 65.6 million people are currently forcibly displaced, and of that, 21 million have sought refugee status. That's about 20% of the American population that's globally displaced right now. In numbers. So this is my dad, and that's his new puppy, Pi, as in 3.14. He's a retired math teacher. He's part of the baby boomer generation, the largest ever generation to retire at once. By 2030, also, 1 in 5 Americans will be over the age of 65, and many of these being children of refugees in World War II. So these are sort of framework books that I'm using to look at both of these populations, as well as articles and basically a lot of stories that I'm looking into is like humans that are currently working together, refugees and retirees, and understanding the psychology of the reintegration of a retiree. So I'm going to tell some stories. This is Vedish van Heiden. He's a retired lawyer in Germany, and he spends his time helping Syrian refugees work the bureaucratic system in Germany, just like simple daily tasks. So this is just one example of a man doing that already. This is Renata. She's a retired IBM VP in Europe, and her parents were refugees twice during World War II and then again from East Germany to West Germany. So she grew up privileged and had a good life in Germany, but is motivated by the story of her parents' survival and everything like that. Carol Brooks is part of a really cool study in Fargo, North Dakota. So this is an example of reciprocity where there was a grant that funded refugees to become CNA certified. And in the meantime, retirees are mentoring them. And this is on her wrist. Those bracelets are names of refugees she's helped. This is Dr. Otto. He's a Lutheran minister in Germany. And he retired and has been helping refugees similarly. He studied in America and also taught in Swaziland in the past. So he's mostly assisting with language. This is Don Ward, a retired teacher in Utah. He spends almost all of his free time working with refugee children. And the high school that he taught at was largely 20% actually refugees. And he also is motivated by the second chance at life after recovering from a deadly disease. This is George, a retired school principal in Germany, and he's actually unique in that he's opened up his home and he hosts Mohammed there, second from the right, and that's him and his children and his partner's children pictured there at just a holiday dinner. So full integration. This is Liz Stark, a retired teacher in Canada. She's part of a group that has been taking in refugee children and just teaching them, reading to them in her free time, also helping their parents set up bank accounts and library cards, just sort of doing the daily life skills to help them integrate into Canada. This is Robert Taylor, a retired professor also from Canada, and sort of similarly, he just dives into the full family picture. He's there picking out pumpkins, learning about American culture with this Syrian father and son, just sort of devoting his time to that kind of work already. This is Marsha Lewis, a semi-retired teacher. She's part of a group that was originally strangers in Connecticut. So a retired cardiologist, a retired lawyer, and her came together, and they formed a small committee to reach out and help people find jobs, and just really kind of was motivated by the lack of that existed. Barbara is a president of What Kids Can Do. She was the Purpose Prize winner in 2008 of the AARP Purpose Prize, which was started by Encore.org, which I'll get to in a second. And she basically just works with at-risk youth, helping them after school in her free time. Mark Friedman is a social entrepreneur who started Encore.org, and he was inspired by Augie and Louise in Portland, Maine. They were in a program called Foster Parents, in which they would literally just like go to the hospital and love on children who were sick, and that was how they decided to spend their free time. And they were like 92, they were like really old, but were so fulfilled by this. And so these stories are shared on Encore.org, and as a whole, it's more of a movement in America. Encore as in like the second coming, you know, like you come out on the stage and perform again. So their encores are creating a better future for future generations, for at-risk youth as a whole. Not necessarily refugees, but a cool case study to look at. And like, how are people encouraged to get involved? This is the AARP Volunteer Wizard for retirees. You can plug in your skill sets and things that you might be interested in. You kind of come here when you don't really know what you want to do, and then they get back with you. So it's sort of like throw yourself out there and kind of wait for a bit. But it's quite diverse, the things that are available. And then specifically in America, you have the Corporation for National Community Service. You can become a foster grandparent, and then you can sort of selected to regions over here. Not as many opportunities, but like Volunteer Match is another website that retirees are using quite often, it looks like. And these are the 9 organizations that the United States, so they're affiliated with United States Refugee Integration, 6 of which are religiously affiliated, none of which focus specifically on retirees and refugees, which is what I'm specifically, obviously, interested in doing here. So that's it.